Alright, this looks pretty good for a potential standard for this series. Alright, guys, so you're right. I should probably stop bringing The Room into my movie face off videos, but I'm doing it again. Today we have the returning contender of The Room, the, let's say, brainchild of the legendary person Tommy Wiseau. And we are going to pit this movie up against the 2015 movie simply known as Room, the adaptation of 2010 novel of the same name. So this is, of course, going to be a little tricky considering the nature of The Room. But we have 5 rounds, and I'm dedicated. So let's do this. Round 1, story. The story, or should I say, story of The Room is that Johnny, played by Wiseau, is engaged to Lisa, who is cheating on him with his best friend Mark, played by Greg Sestero. And it all comes to a sort of climax of sorts on Johnny's birthday. That's pretty much the best way to sum up the story of The Room. Now, the story of Room is that we start with Joy and her 5-year-old son, Jack, who have been in this one room, which is actually in a shed, for the past 5 years, or 7 in the case of Joy, who was there for a couple years before Jack was born. And they eventually find a way to escape, and it's about their lives adjusting to being back into the open world, or in Jack's case, being in the world for the first time since he was born in captivity. The story of The Room is pretty much famous, and even if you haven't heard of it, it's still sort of a standard story. The story of Room is a little bit more creative in terms of being actually one location for a good chunk of the film, and also with exploring the psyche and the struggling part of the movie where they have to take up lives in like the open world. And it's a little bit more interesting how more minimalistic Room could actually be. So I'm giving this round to Room. Now let's move on to round 2, the main characters. So we got sort of 2 main characters in The Room. First one being obviously Johnny, played by Tommy Wiseau. And then I guess for another main character role we can put in Lisa. I was debating Mark, but I suppose Lisa does play a little bit more of a bigger role in the movie, even if she doesn't get as much screen time, I think. Anyway, so the main characters of Room are Joy, played by Brie Larson, and Jack, played by, I think his name is Jacob Tremblay. I don't really know. But I do know his character's name is Jack. And so these 2 characters, well, we can sort of say that Lisa from The Room isn't really the most interesting or well acted character. Johnny, though, is in an existence all of his own. It's literally some of the most iconic lines and scenes of the film. It's remarkable. But, in contrast to Johnny, Joy and Jack actually live in a more realistic, grounded world. With actual real emotions and normal reactions to certain situations. And I love the relationship between Joy and Jack, mom and son, especially in this kind of story and their kind of situation. It's a lot more interesting and can really do some cool and neat stuff with it. So once again, I'm giving this round to Room. Now let's move on to round 3, supporting characters. Now for a good chunk of Room, we really don't get a lot of supporting characters. And when we do get them, they really don't shine until like the very end of the film. But there are still some supporting characters such as the grandma and grandpa. Then there's the step granddad, I guess, Leo. And then for the room, we've got Mark, the psychiatry friend whose name I always forget. Danny. Is Danny or Denny? He's a weird kid. And then we've got that. And then we have Lisa's mom. And then the one weird guy who walks in on Mark and Lisa making out, who seems like he has a good relationship with the characters, but that's the first time we ever see him. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And while the supporting characters of Room are good, like I said, they don't really get a chance to shine until like near the very end of the film. And while I'm not saying the supporting characters of The Room shine necessarily, they do have a little more of a, I guess, equal focus in this movie and do deliver some pretty iconic lines and scenes as well. So taking that into account, this round goes to The Room. Now let's move on to round 4, visuals. Since a good chunk of Room takes place in one scene, or one location, there's only so much you can really do with it, and for its part, it does a good job of capturing scenes of this one room, as well as later on in the movie, different scenes and shots of other locations and such. The scenes and locations of The Room, well, the short version is that they're not necessarily shot in the best possible way. And some of the computer effects, yeah, that's sketchy at best. But that doesn't take away from the fact that if you've seen a shot from this movie, you instantly know it's from The Room. There was like a couple of shots of Room where you could say it's from Room, but most otherwise it's really just like any other movie, which isn't necessarily bad, but it does make this whole visual of the movie a little less unique for a good chunk of the film. So, I'm giving this round to The Room. So let's move on to the 5th and final round, atmosphere. So the atmosphere of The Room, awkward, horrible, and brilliantly funny. Unintentionally for the most part, but my god. It has become the definition of a movie so bad, it's hilarious. I mean, there's really no denying that. And going into it, you're going to know pretty early on that you're going to be watching a movie that's badly made, but enjoyable nonetheless. With Room, it's actually a pretty well done actual legit drama with some tense moments, some actual real emotion in this film. You could get a couple of smiles, and I think for those things, those smiles were meant to be intentional. Now, if we were to talk about the legacy of these films, you know which one will win, but we're talking about the actual atmosphere and the sort of world that these movies create. The Room exists in a exaggerated, bonkers universe that, while not completely realistic, is hilarious as hell. With Room, it's very much a real grounded world that actually explores psyche and relationships that's actually really well done. So, it's a little tough for me to do this, but I'm going to give the round and the face-off to the 2015 film Room. Hey, on the bright side, The Room beat Citizen Kane in its previous face-off. So this makes it 3 losses, 1 win for The Room. And The Room and the 2015 film Room wins this face-off. So leave down your comments down below, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys next time.